On episode 314 of the podcast, we are talking about how every belief has a consequence, how to discover what beliefs you have and if they are truly serving you. And finally, we talk about Cliff's 10-step formula for how to achieve any goal, and he guarantees it. What's up, friend? Hey, I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers where we talk about the business of video production. Things like sales and marketing and operations, mindsets, employees, the things that can help scale your business, the things that can help you create sustainability and predictability inside of your business. If that sounds like it would be helpful for you, then you're probably in the right spot. And if you are looking for an extra push in your business as we start this new year, I want to invite you to our free upcoming 5-day challenge designed to help you get more clients and to be able to charge higher rates without the endless hustle. If you're fired up for 2023 and you're just like, I'm ready to tackle it, I'm ready to do some things I've never done before, I'm ready to grow my business in ways that I haven't ever done before, over 5 days, we're going to cover different topics. We're going to create challenges for everyone to help move the needle in your business, and we're going to do this through live teaching daily. Day 1 is all about increasing profits. Day 2 is how to get bigger sales. Day 3 is how to get more clients. And day 4 is part 2 of how to get more clients because there's so much in there. And then on day 5, it's called Getting a Solid Plan, where we're going to walk you, where you are going to walk away with a step-by-step action plan on how to implement all of the things that you're going to learn over the course of the challenge and during the 5 days, the 5-day Grow Your Video Business Challenge. I've hosted this event the past 2 years, and this year will be the best one yet. I'm very, very excited about the fresh content that I'm going to be bringing. The only reason that I'm doing it is because of the amazing feedback that I have received from literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who have signed up and taken part in the 5-day challenge, and people who have come back to do it again. So don't delay. This thing starts January 16th, which is only a couple of weeks away. If you're listening to this on Monday, it starts exactly 2 weeks from today. If you're listening to it on Monday, January 4th. You can get access, register by going to studiosherpas.com/challenge. Even if you can't show up to all 5 days for the live video, you're going to be able to watch the replays and can still take part in the challenges. So again, that website is studiosherpas.com/challenge. Hope to see you inside there. Man, my Michigan tone, I'm hearing my friend Graham, who makes fun of me when I say the word challenge. How do people say it? Challenge. Join the challenge. Challenge. Oh man, it's so bad. I'd love to see you. Okay, let's get on to this episode. Super good, jam-packed. Let's go. What's up, friends? Hey, my guest today is Cliff Ravenscraft, who is no stranger to this show. Cliff is a master business coach. He's a mentor and a speaker, and his focus is to help you and me break free from any beliefs and or behaviors that are holding you back from living the life of your dreams and doing the work that you feel most called to do in this world. He's also produced, I just read the stat, over 4,700 podcast episodes, which is insane. And Cliff has just been a friend and a mentor and a coach of mine for years at this point. So
it has been years.
So good to have you back on the show, man.
Ryan, I am honored. I mean, it's one thing to be invited on a guest once, but if I'm not mistaken, this might be my third time on the show.
Yep.
And I want to just say I don't take that lightly. I know how big of a deal this is. I'm very cautious about who I expose my audience to, and so I'm honored. Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I have gotten so much wisdom, life transformation stuff, challenge, encouragement from you, and to be able to share you with my peeps is it's a great honor. So I'm so glad that we're doing this. This is selfishly, this is so super fun for me. So
selfishly, this connection here, this whole podcast interview, it's just for me to connect with Ryan. If anybody happens to be listening in, it's nice to have you here.
So let's just start with what you've done a lot. Like when you think of let's just say the last 3 years, what are you most proud of in the last 3 years in the work and the experiences that you've been able to be a part of?
Well, if I can expand it to the last 4 years,
okay,
I would love to answer this question.
Okay.
And the reason why is because 4 years ago, I took a business that I had grown to over $500,000 a year, where I became a world's leading authority in the industry of podcasting, teaching people how to launch podcasts in the tens of thousands. And I shut 100% of all of that down and decided, instead of being the podcast answer man, I'm going to be the mindset answer man. I want to help people with more than their buzzing noises in the background of their audio or what cable do they need. And I want to get to the heart of what is the biggest issue my clients are facing. That imposter syndrome stuff, or that I'm not worthy of this. I can't charge that much. There's no way people would pay me for this. I want to help people break free from those limiting beliefs like you talked about earlier. And so what I did is I made a transition, and within 90 days completely replaced my income. Within 90 days.
Yeah, wow.
Doing something completely different that I was not known for. So I went from a technical podcast consultant and coach to a business mentor and life coach, in a way. And so what I did is I launched the Next Level Mastermind group for self-employed business owners. And I launched 2 different groups. One meets on Wednesday mornings, one meets on Thursday evenings. And since then, that's generated over $1 million in revenue, only working 3 hours a week. That's the biggest thing I'm most excited about.
Oh man, that's pretty incredible. I'm in Graham's mastermind, and this conversation came up just this past week. His encouragement to us as this mastermind group is kind of coming to a close. He was encouraging us to not let money be the thing that dictates the thing that we follow. And for you to completely pivot from an industry that you were at the top of, right? Your expertise, your knowledge, the way that you were helping people, the confidence that you had, right? The complete opposite of imposter syndrome, where you could just, with your eyes closed, give somebody the roadmap to success. And you're seeing the results of the people that you're working with. And granted, yeah, it's technical information and whatever, but you were, in the world's eyes, very successful at that. To completely pivot takes a lot of guts, takes a lot of audacity. I think that there's probably there's a good percentage of people that listen to the show that have a full-time job. Maybe they're doing video full-time for a company, but they have a deep desire to do this on their own, to create freedoms, knowing that there are definitely things that it's not all rainbows and sunshine and all of that stuff when you own your own business. There are definitely pros and cons to both of those worlds. But I think there's a fear for a lot of people to walk away from the comfort, the predictable income, hey, I know I've got this much vacation, I can shut off at 5 p.m. and be with my family. So to walk away from those things into what probably is like this burning desire or burning passion inside. How does somebody do that? Like, how did you do that You didn't know that in 90 days you were going to completely replace your income. And I would, I think that's...
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did. But I will tell you, it took a year and a half to get to where I knew I could do it, to pull the string.
Yeah.
So I get where you're going with the question, though. Yeah. First, I want to just make sure everybody in your audience must know who Graham is just by first name. He's kind of like Oprah now, right?
Yeah, he's been on the show a couple of times, and I do talk about him. Yes,
all right.
So.
Okay, good. So I love what Graham said. And one thing that I want to point out, since you brought in his thing, don't just chase the money. Yeah. So first, I want to say that what I just talked about, making the transition from being incredibly well-known and rising to the top of a particular industry and completely pivoting to something you were not known for, that was not the first time I did it. The first time I did this was in 2008 when I was at the top of the insurance industry. My mom and dad owned an insurance agency that was started by my grandfather in 1937. I worked for the family insurance agency for 12 years of my life. Oh. I was a property, casualty, life, and health insurance agent, independent insurance agent, and I was one of the top agents in the United States, like top 50 in the United States. So I'd already risen to the top of that and made a transition. And when I did that, to say that I had imposter syndrome and that I had tons of fear is a massive understatement. All right. Now, what I will tell you is the transition from insurance answer man, if you will, to podcast answer man. That was an incredibly difficult transition. Yeah. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. In fact, the first year of my full-time self-employment as the podcast answer man, I worked 12, 14, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for 9 months without ever taking a day off. And while the business was bringing in income, it was paying for health insurance benefits for my family. It was paying for the CPA to handle our taxes because I knew nothing about that stuff. It paid for all of the overhead of software. But for those 9 months working 7 days a week, not one paycheck for me and my family. And then by the end of the year, I made $11,000 net income. I was having the time of my life knowing that, man, nothing has ever made me feel this alive ever before. But while those were the highest highs, I also experienced the lowest lows, the worst anxieties, the worst fears, the worst doubts about, how am I'm not putting food on the table. This is shit. This is crazy. And so and I ended up in the hospital and spent 2 weeks where I almost died in January 2009 to celebrate my first year in business. But I got through that. I never gave up. And the reason why is because while I hadn't figured out how to be profitable, like in my mind, with the CPA, first year I went to do my first year attack. He goes, Cliff, this is incredible. And I'm like, what? He goes, you're profitable in your first year of business. I'm like, you call this profitable? He goes, dude, you're net positive.
Yeah.
Celebrate this. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I pat myself on the back, whatever. But that actually prompted me into a personal and professional development journey that really helped me understand the importance of mindset, about confidence, about being clear about what you want, about focusing, knowing what's essential in life. What really does success mean? How much money is enough? All of these things were something that I learned as I spent more than a decade as the podcast answer man. But what happened was, with the podcast answer man, when it came to, I think it was 2015, I had already started to feel that itch. And I didn't make the decision to go from podcast answer man to mindset answer man until September 2017. So we're talking an entire almost 3 years.
Yeah, wow.
So 2 3/4 of a year is how long it took me to overcome the imposter syndrome of going from podcast answer man to mindset answer man. It took a lot of dreaming and having conversations with people who told me, Cliff, of course you can do this. Have you thought about this? And do this and try this. And and hearing it over and over again, but taking a long time for it to sink in for me. So I just want to say that, yes, it didn't happen overnight, but when I did make the decision, what I did during those 18 months is what allowed me to have, with absolute confidence and no doubt whatsoever, I'd replace my income within 90 days. But here's what I also want to say, and it has everything to go back with this quote that you brought in from Graham about don't just chase the dollars. Here's the situation. I was already in the top 3% of income earners of the more than 2,100 people I graduated high school with.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. So I was already at the top. And had I stayed in the family-run insurance agency, my dad retired 3 years ago. Had I was next in line to take over the agency, if I owned that agency today, I'd be making $2.5 million a year in personal income. I walked away from that guaranteed financial future. By the way, it would have been completely soul-sucking, and I would have just been a robot hypnotically going through life with my $2.5 million a year. I'm not kidding you. Yeah. I would have been a miserable millionaire. So I went and launched Podcast Answer Man. And I told you, I grew that to where reliably it was generating $500,000 a year. 1 year I generated $750,000 in 12 months, but that's only because I wanted to pay for a house that my wife and I dreamed up one night. So, and I used the 10-step formula for how to get it, by the way.
Nice.
Anyway, so I grew it to that. But when I say I replaced my income within 90 days, this is what I want to clarify. All I needed to live the life that I desire to provide for myself and my family is $240,000 a year. Anything above that is icing on the cake, and I'm certainly going to go for more than the minimum. But for me to make this transition from this thing where I'm routinely making $40,000 to $60,000 easily every month, I don't need that much money. I'm okay making $20,000 a month minimum as long as I'm doing something that's more aligned to what I feel called to do in this world, because life is about way more than money. And so I wanted to, you brought that quote in from Graham, and I just want to let you know that every time I've made a transition, I've made a choice to go down to something that is kind of like, almost in a way, starting a couple steps back financial income wise. Yeah. But every single time I feel exponentially more peace, abundance, joy, love. And by the way, there is no limit on my income. I could make $2 million this year if I wanted to. I just haven't had the desire.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. I think, you talk about anxieties, and I think that's probably like one of the fears or one of the things that holds people back from taking that step, from the security, I don't know if it's going to be worth it. And I've got a good friend of mine who he's in corporate America and he loves the stability. He looks at me and he's like, dude, I can't believe you do what you do. Like there's no, but he loves it. He like cheers me on, but he's like, I couldn't handle it. I just couldn't handle the unknown. And so the fact that you're able to do that, my hope is that for the filmmaker that dreams of these projects that he or she wants to do, and but is being held back in their normal job, desires to like pursue clients and pursue passion projects, and to have freedoms that they don't have in their day-to-day. What encouragement? Because like I would say it's even for me, it's challenging to think like, okay, 90 days from now, what is my revenue going to be? Like, I don't really know. Like, I've got some good guesses. I've been doing this for a long time, so I've got some data too, and I'm doing the things that I think are going to drive those numbers 90 days from now. But for somebody that is being held back by some fears or some things that may or may not be true, where they're not stepping into this area where they might take a salary cut for at least for a little bit, but the things that they're going to gain in doing that could bring life and some freedoms that they just haven't been able to experience. What encouragement would you kind of give to somebody that's in that situation where they probably feel stuck?
Wow, there's a lot that you threw into that question as far as what advice would I give. So there's a couple of things. Number one, don't automatically assume that you need to take any pay cut.
That's good.
That might be a limiting belief in and of itself.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you're making in corporate. I had an attorney, by the way, who hired me when I was testing the waters of mindset coaching. He says, Cliff, I make $800,000 a year as an attorney, and I work for somebody else in a law firm. And my desire is to be a high school or youth football coach full time, but not reduce my income.
Okay.
How do you think you can help me find a way to pivot into something that is more life-giving, more purposeful, and will still not have me make a hit from my $800,000 a year income? And I'm like, sure, let's have conversations about this. And over the course of 6 90-minute conversations, I was committed to helping him find a path to this. By the way, in the first 25 minutes of the first conversation, I asked him one question that answered everything for him. And let me just tell you, this was 2016, so however many years ago that was. This is where he is today. Today, he works for a different law firm as an attorney for 9 months out of the year, making over $800,000 a year. But in that law firm, he now has expanded what he does there. And what we found out is what he truly is passionate about when it comes to youth football coaching. It's not youth football coaching that really lights his fire. It's about what youth football coaching allows him to do to help people experience a breakthrough on what's possible in life. And he's now doing that with his law clients.
Gosh.
9 months out of the year. But 3 months out of the year, during football season, he does no lawyer work. He is fully devoted to being a youth football coach. He's got the best of all worlds. And so my first word of encouragement is don't let yourself or anyone else tell you the story you have to take a pay cut to pursue your dreams. That's the first thing.
Brilliant.
You want me to give you more?
Yeah, please.
The second thing I would say to that individual is that, wow, because I've worked with so many people, and you said something about being stuck and the limiting beliefs. So the next thing that I would say is you have to understand that all beliefs have consequences. You asked me what's the thing that I'm most proud of over the last couple of years, and I guess maybe now that if I were to think about it, because I don't know why this didn't immediately come to mind, I would say another thing that I'm excited about that I created is the annual Free the Dream conference, or just the Free the Dream concept and message altogether. In 2018, 2019, I did my own annual conference. Took some time off in 2020. I don't know if you know what was going on around the world or anything like that. Live events kind of got a little stumbling block. Yeah. But today it's an online course. But anyway, the whole thing is this is all about people having a dream and then freeing that dream, where it's like, there's no way I can fly outside of this cage. Sure, you can open the door of the cage, but I still feel like I'd be safe if I just stayed in the shelter of this cage that I've always known. And the reason why the door is wide open. You could fly anytime you want. And by the way, number one, you don't have to take a pay cut to walk out of the cage. Number two, you don't have to leave the cage now before you make the pivot. You can actually create a plan, a strategy, and you could do this very slowly. You could kind of get to the edge of the cage and kind of test things out outside before you pack up and move out permanently. So, but to be able to get your ability to see yourself outside of the cage is the most important thing. Without vision, the people will perish. Without your ability to imagine life outside of the cage you find yourself in right now, whatever that cage is, it may not be a day job or a corporate job. You might be already a business owner, full-time self-employed, but you feel like, well, gosh, I've now got so much success over here, I can't see myself starting over again. Again, I would encourage you, don't tell yourself the narrative and allow yourself to accept the fact that you have to start all over. You're never going to start all over.
Right.
You'll never be able to give up all of the stuff you've learned throughout your life journey so far. So the reason why people get stuck inside of the cage that they're in is because they can't see their life. They can't imagine. They can't dream about what life would be. So my first thing is just start dreaming. You don't have to tell anybody that you're dreaming it. When I started dreaming about becoming full-time self-employed as a podcast guy, when I had this guaranteed secure job as an insurance agent, where my wife was a stay-at-home mom and we had 3 young kids, and it would have been the most ridiculous thing in the world, knowing in 2008 there was a global economy crash coming, and everybody saw it, at least in my industry. We knew it was coming, and yet I left it anyway. But I will tell you, that dream started in early 2007, and actually, no, mid 2006. But for probably at least 6 months, I never told anyone. I was daydreaming every day about leaving this insurance business and doing this full time. I felt guilty that I had the dream. I felt ashamed of having the dream, but I still was dreaming it. And so number one, if you're already dreaming, don't quit your daydream. And also don't quit your day job just yet.
Yeah.
Don't quit your day job and don't quit your daydream. Those are some of the pieces of advice that I would give. And where I was going with the all beliefs have consequences and why I brought Free the Dream in is some people are afraid to have that dream, to start pursuing that dream. And the reason why, it has nothing, it's real simple. It has everything to do with what you believe about life, what you believe about what is responsible, what is right, what is wrong, what you believe people expect of you, what is required of you. It's about what you believe you're capable of. It's all of these beliefs. And every single belief has a consequence, because what you believe unequivocally determines how you will think and feel about any topic, including leaving the cage. All right? Whatever that cage is. Every thought and every feeling you have about any topic is dependent upon what you believe. And the reality is you and I, Ryan, and everybody on this planet, we're unaware, we're not consciously aware of at least 80 or 90% of the things that we believe. We just picked it up, most of it within the first 7 years of our life, before we had the ability to critically think about what we have chosen to believe. And we've been operating under those beliefs since we were kids. It was something that mom or dad said to us. You'll never be good at that. You've got to do this. This is how money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. All of this other stuff. You got to work hard, blah, blah, blah. And then you also adopted a ton of beliefs. You and I adopted a ton of beliefs over the course of our lifetime as well. And these beliefs, even though we never sat down and said, okay, I choose to believe this, this, and this. We believe them, and and those emotions up and down, the mental drama of the mind is all happening because of our beliefs. And so what I would recommend is that you actually begin the practice and study of learning how to, number one, discover what your beliefs are. Number two, evaluate if they're true and are they serving you. Number three, disassociating from them. And number four, finding empowering alternative beliefs that you can condition into your life so you start thinking and feeling differently about your new life outside of where you are currently.
That should be the end of the show. That's so good. I mean, there's so much in that. I think that's when I reflect on all of the time that you've spent coaching me. Like I feel like this is where we've kind of hung out, and I'm so much more aware of my thoughts, right, and my beliefs. There's a conversation we had earlier this week. The question was asked, the same question, like, what are you most proud of? Like, think of the 5 things that you're most proud of over your entire life. And I was like, wow, geez. Okay, let me think of some personal things. Let me think of some work things. And one of them that's so interesting is being a little kid. I just remember being told this by the authorities in my life. You got to look out for number 1.
Yeah.
And what that built in me, all growing up, going to college, still thinking this. I had a total kind of life change out of high school into college, kind of like found faith in God, but still carried this belief that I had to look out for number 1, eventually start a business, years later, and still am hanging on to this. I've got to look out for number 1. And I had a scarcity mindset, right? So any opportunity, like I had to take it. And anything that I saw, and not necessarily, maybe there were certain things that I did that weren't above board, because I just felt like, well, it's in front of me. Like it's presented itself, and I've got to look out for number 1. So like, I got to take it. And I'm so grateful, because one of the things that I'm most proud of is not like believing that, I've got to look out for number 1, but coming to this other place of an abundant mindset where, even today I educate essentially, quote unquote, my competition, right? Here are the tools. Here's how to grow your business. Here are the things that we're doing that are working. Here's my budget sheet. Here's the way we get clients and how to, whatever. That's full circle for me.
Yeah, I love that. And where the funny thing is you actually came through and talked about the potential downside of the belief of you've got to look out for number 1. But when you said somebody who were the authorities in your life as a younger person, you said you got, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what great advice! I wish I was given that advice when I was a kid, because I see the power of that advice.
Yeah.
But here it goes. Remember that statement: all beliefs have consequences.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, what do you do with this?
Yeah.
So there is real danger in going so far to an extreme of you've got to look out for yourself. Right. However, at one extreme, you don't care about anybody else. You're all in it for yourself. It's all about you. You never really contribute to anyone. That can lead to a lot of isolation and hurt and all sorts of other stuff at an extreme. But at a healthy approach, it allows you to live a life of self-care and giving yourself rest, giving yourself grace. And so there's a lot of real value in the advice. It just depends on, it's not just you got to look out for yourself, but what does that mean for me to look out for myself? So it's not just the belief you've got to look out for yourself. It's the belief about what does it mean to actually look out for myself. Because I can tell you right now, the alternative is to look out for the needs of others, put the needs of others first, which, by the way, is an incredibly dangerous belief.
Yeah.
If taken to an extreme, also.
Yeah, it's funny. It's really good. For me, it was context, and I equated it the other day when I was reflecting on this. I equated it to, I'm being told this, and what I'm seeing is broken relationships all over the place. Marriages, friendships, like sons and daughters, and then so when I am in the spot to I love this woman and I want to ask her to marry me, but I'm afraid because I'm like, I don't want to become what I've seen in my family. I don't want this to be broken one day because how that hurt me and impacted me. And I don't want to do that to anybody else. So my context was, you look out for number 1, you get married, you look out for number 1. And that's what I saw. And I'm so grateful to have had people that came alongside me to give me a different perspective, a different context of what it means to look out for number 1, right? And it's like, well, you get married, it's like, okay, yeah, you're still 1. Like that actually is 1. So now it's like, how do you care for each other and how do you serve each other?
Well, there is that, but also there is you're one, but you're also an individual still.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, and I will still argue for you've got to look out for number one. One of my favorite scriptures is, what is the greatest commandment? And of course, well, what does the scripture say? You tell me. You're an expert in the law. He says, well, to love the Lord with all your mind, soul, strength, and body and spirit. It's like, great, wonderful. He goes, and the second is equally as important. And it's not love others first. The second greatest commandment, which is equal to the first, which summarizes all of the law of God, is love others as you have loved yourself. So in that is, you got to love yourself first.
Yep.
You can't serve from an empty pitcher.
Right.
You got to fill your own cup first. And so for me to be able to serve my wife, I have to make sure that I am self-care enough that I am able to serve her from an overwhelming abundance of whatever it is that I'm looking to give to her.
Yeah.
If I want to give her love, I need to make sure that I am filled with love. If I want to help extend peace, I need to make sure that I'm filled with peace. If I want to help give her rest, I need to come from a place of rest.
Yep. 1,000,000%. So good. Oh man, that's rich. Oh, I love it. Okay, so this episode is going to release right around the end of the year. I think a lot of people are starting to reflect on, hey, what went well this year? What didn't go well? Hopefully people are making time to do that, so that, as we think about next year, we have some informed data, feelings, thoughts around, well, what could next year look like? What should it look like? People make resolutions. They've got big plans. I know for me, I used to, when I would make my yearly plans and goals for my business, I might have like 25 things on the list of all these things I wanted to accomplish. I was so cute back then. And it was cool because I would accomplish some of them, but the audacity that I would have to think that in a year I could do all of these things, especially when I was just by myself. I love that. I love dreaming, right? I love to be able to do that. So I don't ever want to squash somebody's hey, just keep going. What else? What else? I think that's super good and super helpful. But then from a very practical level of okay, what do I think I could accomplish this year that could move the needle of the business? Because you got to break it down into okay, steps and what does done look like with this thing, or with all of these goals and things that I want to do. Before we make a goal of okay, I want to rebrand, or I want to launch a new website, or I want to buy the red camera, or I want to hire an employee. There's a lot of things that would probably be good for our business. There's things that would be great for our business. We can't do them all. We can't do them all in the context of a year. So how should one, from your perspective, focus on the right goal? Before we make a plan on how to achieve the goal, how do we make sure that when we make this list of 25, how do I narrow to maybe the top one or two that I really, that should be the most important? If I didn't do any of the other ones, if I did this one, how would you recommend getting to that place?
Well, I love that you revised the question to how would I recommend versus how should we? Yeah. Because how you should is up to you. I'm not going to tell you should do anything. But I do have a recommendation if you're not in a place where you've already decided to figure it out.
Yeah.
So here's what I have. This is a part of my Free the Dream conference and my Free the Dream online course. So inside of the workbook, I have this thing. It's called the 50 Things I Want exercise. And you can just do this on a legal pad of paper, all right? Just write at the very top of the page, 50 things I want. And on the left-hand column from the top to the bottom, just write 1 through 25. Flip the page over and then write 26 through 50, all right? Now, set a timer for 2 hours. And literally 2 hours. Most people will need it unless you've done this many times. But set a timer for 2 hours undistracted. And here's the caveat. This is what I wrote down. Ask yourself the question, what do I want? Don't allow yourself to use any filters. Don't ask, is this selfish? Is this possible? Or what would other people think if they saw this list? Simply write every item that comes to your mind until you have 50 things on the list. That's the key.
I like it.
You have to let your subconscious mind, your inner child, your inner being just go free. Listen, hey, kid, here's the thing. Toy store over here called life. All right, we're in the toy store of life. And Daddy Warbucks, God in heaven, says, ask for anything your heart desires, and it's given to you. Everything. I'll just give it to you all. The only thing is, just for now, see if you could just limit it to 50 things. All right? So have at it. That's what you're doing on this list. Write down 50 things you want. It could be, I want to build a house I want to build a castle on the South Island of New Zealand and have a private helicopter pilot to take me anywhere I want to go on the South or North Island. You can write that down. I did it one time, but you can write down anything. It could be a better relationship with my kids, drop a couple of pounds. It could be anything. Just if it comes to your mind, it has to go on this document, and keep going until you come up with 50 things. So many things will come to you that you never dreamed that you had dreams of.
Yeah, well.
So the first thing to do is remove all of the filters and give yourself the fullest permission to write down anything and everything that you desire that comes to your mind. Create a list of 50. Then in the course, I talk about creating your top 10 dreams. And here's the instructions. Now that you have your top 50 things that you want, it's time to make a list of your top 10 dreams. It is not important that this list be in order. Simply go through your 50 items and choose 10, any 10, that you feel should be on your top 10. That's it. Now, if you're going through this and you're creating your top 10 dream list, if a new item comes to you that wasn't on the 50 list, go ahead and put it on the top 10 and just write it as a 51st item or a 52nd or a 53rd. Do not put limits on your dreams. All right? So now you've got your top 10 dreams. They're not in any order. Next, you're going to create your top 3 goals. All you need to do is look through your top 10. Pick which of these is most important to me. That is your number 1 goal in priority. Then you'll have 9 items left on your top 10. Which is most important? That's your number 2 goal. And then out of that, you'll have 8 left. What is most important? That's your number 3 goal. Now, within the course of one day or one weekend, you went from having really almost no clarity about where you should go over the next year ahead to now you are laser focused on what is the number 1 most important thing for you to work on and create in this world. What's the number 2? What's the number 3? And it's okay to be able to have a reflection back on some of these other items just in case you have a little extra time at the end of the year. That's what I would recommend.
I love it. Dude, that's so good. I love that exercise. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely doing this exercise, but I'm gonna get my wife to do it too. I would be very curious to see what she comes up with, and then which of our 50 or 10 crossover, right?
Yep. So here's Stephanie and I do this as well. And so my recommendation, make sure that you do each of them independently. You cannot give each other any indication as to what's on the list until both of you have a list of 50, 10, and 3.
Yeah.
And then go on a date or have a little date night in if you have to, and read your lists. And if your spouse says something, you circle it and you tell her to circle it as well. It is incredible to see just how many dreams you have together. And by the way, it may rearrange some of your priorities.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful. Until Stephanie and I started to do this together, I had no idea how many dreams we shared in common.
Yeah. Wow.
And boy, once we started to prioritize those as a couple, we're unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fire. That's so good.
And the other thing I want to just say is this is great to do as an annual project once a year.
Yeah.
I do this every 3 months.
Oh, wow.
I do this every 3 months because I'm constantly evolving. I'm constantly changing. What was important to me 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 1 year ago, I may have read, learned, studied, experienced things that have shifted my perception of what life is about, who I am, my own identity, my own purpose. I am an ever-changing, ever-evolving person. So what I want is always changing.
Yeah.
So here's what I will tell you. I don't do it every 3 months. I'd like to do it as often as every 3 months. But it's certainly at least a minimum of once a year, at least sometimes twice a year, and often 4 times a year I do this exercise. Here's the caveat. I never look at any prior list when I'm sitting down to make a new list of 50, 10, and 3. It's only after I do so that I go back to look to see what has been on this thing consistently over time.
That's pretty cool. I like that. Okay, so let's say we do the exercise, we spend the 2 hours, we whittle our list down, we've got our top 3, we've got our top 1. How do you recommend we get that one thing done? How do we get it completed?
Well, I have a guaranteed process for how to achieve any goal with only 10 steps.
Okay.
Would you like to hear it?
Please.
Are you skeptical?
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical.
All right, that's fine. All I can tell you is that there's never been a goal that I set out to achieve where I remained focused on that goal, didn't change or shift my perception of whether or not I truly wanted it. Not because I wasn't afraid that I couldn't get it or blah, 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 but my desire changed. But we're talking about how did I go from insurance agent to over $500,000 a year in my Podcast Answer Man business? How did I shed Podcast Answer Man and generate $1 million in 4 years from working 3 hours a week? And also a couple coaching calls on top of that as well. But the $1 million was just the 3 hours a week. But how did I go from we're in a mortgage and we went from barely making ends meet to moving into our dream home and building it in 9 months when we needed $62,000 extra cash after tax? Dude, I can tell you some freaking dreams that I've had that you're like, who the heck do you think you are, Cliff Ravenscraft? And I am unstoppable. Because I happen to be a divine spiritual being having a human experience, and I learned a little bit about how life works. So here is my guaranteed, absolute, no doubt whatsoever in my mind, proof, positive, 10-step formula for how to achieve any goal. How much time do we have left? Because I'll adjust how quickly I go through it to how much time is left.
What do you need? 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Okay, we'll give it a minute per step. Ready? Here we go.
It.
Step number 1, you got to know what you want. All right? You have to know what you want. Most people don't get their dreams because they don't know what they want. You might say, I want to generate $1 million this year. No, you don't. That is not what you want. Some people say, I want to start my own business. No, you don't.
Right.
That's not what you want. What you want is what you believe $1 million will give you as far as feelings and connections and love and certainty and significance. You got to get clear about what it is you actually want. I could go into greater detail, but because I only have a minute per step, we're just going to say you got to get clear about what you want. This exercise that I just gave you, the 50 things I want, it's just the beginning, scratching the surface of getting clear about what you want. But you got to know what you want. And step number 2, why do you want what you want? You have to know why you want it. You see, knowing what you want is your destination. You can't get to a destination. You will never be able to use the GPS in your car or on your phone to get to a location that you don't know where you're going. Sunday afternoon drive, and you just want to just go out and have fun. That's great. It's a wonderful way to experience life. But you're not going to get to a destination point and know how to get there when you don't know where you're going. So you got to know what you want. But number two, you got to know why you want it. And here's why. Because to get to your destination, you're going to need to estimate how much fuel will I need to get there. If I'm going to get off the road and take these back roads, how much gas is in the tank, and do I have enough gas in the tank before the next place for me to fill up, the next opportunity? You see, knowing why you want what you want is your fuel. Most people fail to achieve their goals because they don't have it'd be really nice to have that. It's like, I think I want this because I'll finally make my dad proud. Guess what? That's never going to be enough. I think I want this because it's what everybody's told me I should always do. I should have this retirement account. I should have this 9 months of emergency fund. And just because I really want to make other people happy and proud of me and not feel such a loser, that's never going to be enough fuel. You will run out of steam every time. Your willpower will carry you forward for a couple of weeks. 82% of people who make New Year's resolutions have given up completely by the second week in February. All right? They ran out of fuel. So you got to know why you want. Step number 3, you have to believe. You have to have faith that it is possible. You have to have confidence. Matter of fact, the Bible actually gives, for those who are Christians, the Bible gives a one-step formula for how to achieve any goal. Did you know this, Ryan?
I don't know. Tell me.
It's called ask. Because there is no part 2. It's step 1, ask, and you shall receive. But you have not because you ask not. You have not because you don't believe. You must believe, and he who asks without doubt receives. It's all through the Bible. All right. But anyway, getting off the Bible bouncing thing, you have to believe it. You have to have faith. You have to not doubt this thing. You can't doubt your worthiness. You can't doubt your ability. You can't doubt the resources that will be made available to you. You can't doubt your connection to God to bring about anything your heart desires. Step 3, you must believe. All right. Number 4, you must decide right now that you must achieve this goal. There are 2 very important words, decide and must. All right? Decide is the same root word, side, is in pesticide and homicide. What does pesticide and homicide have in common? It's to kill. So when you decide that you're going after this goal, you have decided, you killed any other idea in your mind other than the fact that this is going to be a part of your life. Most people fail to achieve their goals because they never have a persistent, lifelong commitment. This is what I am going to create. I must have this. It'd be really nice to. I'd really like to. That's never going to get it. You will have it. I will create this. No, nothing will get in my way. Nothing will stop me. Knock me down 1,000 times, I'll get up 1,001. Decide right now that you must have that. Step number 4. Step number 5, write it down. There's a study by Dr. Gail Matthews. She's a psychology professor at the Dominican University in California. And I'm not going to give you the whole scientific jargon that explains why this happens, but I'll just tell you this. If you simply write down physically with your own hand and some writing instrument, you're 42% more likely to achieve your goals simply because you wrote them down, even if you did no other thing.
Wow.
At the Free the Dream conference, Ryan, in 2018 and 2019, we gave people this 50 Things I Want exercise. And I have hundreds of people who have told me stories about things they wrote down. They had no idea that they even had that desire within them. They wrote it down. It didn't make their top 10. It didn't make their top 3. But like 5, 6, 7 of those things within days, weeks, or months just showed up in their life. And by the way, there is a scientific reason why it happens, but it's step number 5. It's write it down. Step number 6, place your goals where you can see them. And there is a little car in my video here. If people are watching the live stream here, so that little car right there, Volkswagen Beetle. So I had a client who came in for a day of coaching. He paid $7,500 for one 8-hour session with me. And we went out to lunch, and I told him, I said, good thing my wife didn't need the car today because I don't have a car anymore. We would have been Ubering to lunch. And he's like, why don't you have a car? I said, I gave it to my daughter. She just turned 16. She just got her license and blah, 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 whatever. And he's like, well, why don't you have a car? I said, I work from home and I don't really, need it a whole lot. If I can wait until somebody's home and I take one of the other cars. He goes, don't you have, I said, I'm not a car guy. He goes, you don't have a dream car? And I said, okay, if you pressed me, if I had a dream car, it would be a 1970s, early 70s classic Volkswagen Beetle. And he began to ask me it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this dream was in there.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that every time I've ever seen one of these, I've always been like, oh my gosh, I got to go and check that out. And I stop and look, even if there's like no door on the car. It's like, I'm always obsessed with it. It's like, wow. So he's like, hey, Cliff, thank you so much for helping me with my dream, get on the road to my dream. I wanted to give you this gift to help you on the road to your dream. And he gave me that little die-cast car. It's set on my desk, and it's got the little bonnet that pulls up. The doors will open and all this other stuff. And I started to just play around, and I started to imagine, vision, dreaming, seeing myself. I literally, in my mind, began thinking about the smell of the car, because it has a Volkswagen has a unique smell. It's gasoline leaking from the bonnet in front of you, but that's a whole other story. Anyway. So I'm seeing myself drive this car, and it's sitting here on my desk. And then one day I go into Facebook Marketplace, and I see this 1974 Volkswagen Beetle in perfect mint condition, 5,000 miles, and it's only $9,000. And I just got paid $7,500 for one day of mentoring. And I went to Stephanie. I said, hey, how much do you want? She goes, what do you want? And a couple hours, within 2 weeks of that thing sitting on my desk, because it was there in front of me, a visual representation of my dream, within 2 weeks, a classic 1974 perfect mint Volkswagen Beetle is sitting in my garage. So step number 6, place your goals where you can see them. All right, let's see here. Step number 7, tell others. One of the things that helped in that process was telling Chris that I had a dream, even though he pulled it out of me. But he's the one who really, by telling him, so many things happened. All the other dreams, like me wanting to leave insurance and become the podcast guy, that happened because I finally got around to got over my shame of having the dream. I started telling other people, and they began to give me ideas about how I could do it. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Thank you. So many, and same thing. Every dream I've ever had, it's like I start telling other people. Number 1, it provides a sense of accountability that says, hey, I'm going after this. Number 2, it allows me to be encouraged by others who will cheer me on. You do want to be responsible about who you share it with. Some people might not be a good idea to share it with them. Number 3, it allows me to be a source of inspiration that encourages others to raise their own standards of their dreams. And the most important one is every time I tell someone else about my dreams, I usually end up about 1 out of every 4 or 5 or 6 people have some next step that I didn't think of on my own on how I could get closer to that dream becoming a reality.
That's good.
Step number 7, tell others. Step number 8, take massive action now. Massive action. Ask yourself a couple of questions. What can I do within the next 24 hours? 1 step or 2 or 3 that I can take within the next 24 hours, no matter how small, that will get me closer to this goal. Write them down. What is 1, 2, or 3 steps that I can take within the next 7 days that will get me 1 step closer to this goal becoming a reality? What is 1, 2, or 3 steps that I can take within 30 days, the next month? Write those down. What's 1, 2, or 3 things that I could do over the next 6 months? What's the 1, 2, or 3 things that I can do over the next 12 months? Now, start taking action. And keep asking yourself those questions and keep taking actions. By the way, step number 9, evaluate the results of your actions. Did this get me closer? If not, change your approach, modify it, keep going, try something different. Don't ever say, I tried everything. That is the most ludicrous, craziest thing you could ever say. You've never tried everything. I promise you. Keep trying. Evaluate your results is step number 9. Step number 10, change your approach if necessary. That's it. 10-step formula. Keep doing that over and over again. You will achieve anything. Promise you. Guarantee it.
Dude, let's go.
That's it.
I love that.
I dare anyone. Yeah. I dare anyone to tell me about a goal that they have and apply this 10-step formula and tell me this didn't work. I dare them to. And if it didn't work, I will tell you which of the 10 steps you failed at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the 10 steps, but you said this before you even went through the list. You said for the goals that you didn't achieve, it's because the desire changed. Right. Where
I'm always involved in.
I've felt like I think I felt like a failure in the past for things that I've told other people, like, hey, I want to launch this podcast or I want to do this thing, and then I don't do it. But 9 times out of 10, I shouldn't say, I don't know what the percentage is, but there have been times where the reason why it didn't happen is because I lost the passion, the desire, or I realized, you know what, like, I think there's something better than that thing. I should be focusing on this thing. So even having the room there to just say, hey, like, you might change what you want done, and that's okay too.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it.
Right. Yeah, that's good advice as well.
And the other thing I just want to say about achievement of goals, you'll eventually learn this. I'm not saying Ryan, but the person who hasn't learned this yet. And I know Ryan has had to have already learned it, and you can confirm in just a moment. But I learned this. One thing that I learned many years ago: there is no joy in the achievement of goals. There is no joy in the achievement of goals. The true joy is the pursuit of something worthwhile. It's in the creating. It is in the challenge. It's in the growth. It's in the contributing to others along the way, because you can get anything you want in life by helping enough other people get what they want in life. So the bigger things that you want in life, the more you're probably going to be having to contribute to the success of others. This, I have found, is the true joy. Yeah. Here's what I will tell you. Will you achieve a goal and feel happy? For a moment. And that moment could be a moment. Yep. It could be a day, a week. Very rarely does it last more than a month before you're like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And I can just tell you, you can get off the roller coaster of emotions by stop trying to attach happiness, joy, and abundance to the achievement of any goal. And instead, enjoy the flow of life every day.
I'm writing that down. That's really good. Yeah, dude. Once again, the Ravenscraft is back.
Oh, I love what I do, brother. Oh. Could you imagine me sitting here and say, well, Brian, I think you really should use the ATR 2100 if you're thinking about a USB microphone.
And that's good. That has its place, but
not for this guy, it doesn't.
Enjoying the flow of everyday life. That's yeah, man, that's really rich. Cliff, people, can they download this guide? Where can they get more Cliff Ravenscraft, all of the things that you have to offer this world?
All right. So there are a couple of things that I want to share. The first and most important thing, go right now to mindsetanswerman.com/free. Mindsetanswerman.com/free. If you go there and put your name and email address, get on my mailing list, you'll have instant access to my opening keynote address called All Beliefs Have Consequences. This 60-minute talk will change your experience of life forever. It happens to be the first session of an 8-session online course for Free the Dream. And you'll get all of the notes. You'll learn how to discover what your limiting beliefs are. And you'll learn how to evaluate those beliefs. You'll learn how to disassociate. You'll learn how to recondition new beliefs. It's incredibly powerful. If you do nothing else other than watch this 1-hour talk at mindsetanswerman.com/free, your life experience will never be the same. I promise you, I guarantee you, I invite you to unsubscribe immediately if that's not your experience. All right? So that's the first thing that I would do. The second thing is, at the end of that online course, which is just a 1-session course, the opening session, you'll have an option to purchase the entire 6 hours of content, 8 sessions of the Free the Dream online course. It is incredibly inexpensive. You'll see the special offer when you get there. I'm not saying the price because I play with the price every now and then, and so who knows when you're listening to this. But whatever price it is, if it's less than $50,000, it's worth it. And if it's actually at $50,000, buy it before it goes up. Because it's worth it. But it's probably somewhere between, it's been as low as $97. It's been as high as $500. I may play around with some other pricing.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, it's good. You heard it here first, folks.
Buy the thing. But it is incredibly powerful. This 10-step formula is actually a 45-minute session. It's one of the 8 sessions in the course. The workbook has all the things you can print and go through. It's got the most beautiful notes for everything. Literally, this is my version of T. Harv Eker's Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, but with all the things that I've learned personally, all of the new insights that I got through implementing his materials, and also coaching thousands of other people through what I've learned from it. It's the 10-day audio program from Tony Robbins, which I think is $295. It's everything Tony teaches, but from my perspective, my insights, my stories, and all the things I've learned from teaching thousands of other people this stuff as well. So chances are you're going to get it less from me at freethedreamcourse.com, or if you just get it from the access that you get over at mindsetanswerman.com/free. It's probably going to be less than what you pay Tony Robbins for creating lasting change, but chances are it might be more, and it'll be worth more.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah. Head over to cliffravenscraft.com, click the Work With Me tab, and check out my Next Level Mastermind if you're a full-time self-employed business owner or on the path of becoming one, or my one-on-one coaching, no matter who you are and what you got going on in life. Whatever your dream is, I guarantee you, I can help you see life from a completely different perspective.
He does not lie, folks. That is probably the truest thing that you said today. I don't know. I think they're all equally true.
Everything else has been half true.
It's like, okay, yeah, maybe. Not sure I believe that. Dude, I mean, just the 10 things, the 50 things, there's just lots of gold in this episode. Thank you for just giving us all of that. And the guarantee, I mean, you
guarantee. I will give you your money back if you sign up for my free email newsletter and you don't get what I promised.
Yes, exactly.
I'll give you back 10 times refund.
We're teaching our second grader Hazel what she started doing times tables, and so she keeps confusing 1 times anything equals that whatever that number is with 0. So I'm like, no, sweetie, and so she's getting 0 times free would be still 3 times.
It's why I don't do a lot of things for free. I genuinely this by the way, just a little aside. I launched the Free the Dream online course right after Free the Dream 2018, which basically was just a dump of all of the sessions that I taught, which is the main core, and every other speaker I hosted at my event. And I spent $65,000 in television quality production for this thing. So video producers will be able to really appreciate the level of quality of my content. So In the course, I was charging $500. There was no special workbook just for course related at the time. It was then when I had Free the Dream 2019, I put all in there, and there are 44 sessions. 44 1 hour video, 45 minute to 1 hour videos. And that's way too much for a course and all this other stuff. And people were buying it for $500, and the transformation that they got and the testimonials are off the chart. So for $500, it's like there's no reason this thing should not be selling like crazy.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Recently, I revised the whole thing. I picked only 8 sessions. I personally edited everything down. I created a workbook just for this course, deleted every sessions that's not the core message. It is 10 times better than what people have paid when they paid $500. And I put it on sale initially for $97. And it was selling like crazy. And then I raised the rate up. I said, listen, it's limited time. And then I raised the rate to $497. And nothing for a whole month. Yeah. And so right now it's at I think it's $290 or actually $197 or something like that. But I've got to figure out the marketing message. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a good marketer. Chances are you've already signed up for my free course, free opening thing, and all this other stuff. But I haven't figured out the marketing of this course yet. And that's why I joke about the price. Somewhere, somehow, I'm going to figure out how to sell this thing for $1,000.
Or 50,
or 50,000,
Oh my gosh. Cliff, man, I appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful we got this time together. Seriously, super valuable. I'm excited to hear feedback from our listeners on this one. But thank you again. Great to be together.
Ryan, I love you, brother. And I'm eager to hear feedback as well. My email address is cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Email me if anything I said touched your heart.
Thank you so much. All right, Cliff is obviously one of my favorite guests that I've had on the show by bringing him back. I think he's done the lead episode of each year for like the last 2 years. Super cool. If you want access to the show notes, make sure to just go to studiosherpas.com/314 and let me know what kind of value that you got out of this episode. Are you going to try Cliff's 10-step formula for achieving any goal? Or do you think that you might do the 50 things I want exercise? Leave me a comment, shoot me an email, message, whatever. My email is ryan@studiosherpas.com. You could follow us on the Insta at Grow Your Video Business. And I'm also at Ryan Coral on Instagram too. Do not forget the challenge. Don't forget the challenge. The 5-day Grow Your Video Business Challenge is 2 weeks away. Go sign up. I promise you're going to love it. And you get to meet so many other amazing people inside of this community. You can do that by going to studiosherpas.com/challenge for the completely free 5-day Grow Your Video Business Challenge. That's it, man. Should I figure out a different way to say challenge? Leave a comment below. Just kidding. Have an amazing day, and we are going to have an amazing year together. Pumped that you're here. Let's go. Okay, ready to do this? Here we go. Next week's episode too, you guys. Just come back for more, because we're talking about tiny habits, and you're going to be blown away at some of the things that you can do to create really incredibly simple but highly impactful habits that'll change your life, change your business, change your communities, change the world. Let's go. Goodbye for now.